With the enforced personal loot system coming to even organise Mythic guild raids during the Battle for Azeroth expansion, there are some serious concerns regarding gearing up that Blizzard hasn't addressed. So I'd like to. This discussion arose from a topic that came up during this week's Azeroth review. Now, with the personal loot system, the first week or two of a new raid is unlikely to see much trading of loot as the item level will probably be too high. However, as each week passes, we'll be able to trade more and more items to guildies who can make better use out of it. I've already talked about the social problems that this can cause, but now I'm going to discuss it from the point of view of a mature, sensible group of progress raiders who want to work as part of a high-functioning team. There are such guilds, I'm told. We'll assume we're one of them. Now, of course, pugs have no vested interest in seeing other players benefit from their loot, and so this video doesn't concern those groups. I'm also not going to address the issue of obtaining off-spec loot because that will affect some guilds more than others. So first, let's take a look at an example Mythic roster. So into our 20-man raid go a couple of tanks, a druid and a monk. Healers, paladin, druid, priest and a monk. Melee, paladin, warrior, shaman, druid, couple of rogues and a monk. And for the ranged, a hunter, a druid, couple of mages, couple of warlocks and a priest. Now your group of course may be very different. In fact, after this video, you might like to run through the same exercise with the group that you typically take for progress fights and see how it matches up yourself. So with this roster, looking at primary stats, we have the following: 2 strength users, 8 agility users, and 10 intellect users. So if there are Abyss strength trinkets in the raid, then there is very little chance of acquiring them except through loot that the game assigns you. With only one other member of the raid who might get one they can trade, your chances are lower. However, an intellect trinket can drop for half the raid, and so the chance of being traded one, a few weeks in at least, is much higher. 5 times higher really, assuming that the recipient doesn't need it either due to it being bad for their class or they already have an equal or better one. This assumption becomes more likely with each passing week. So imagine how many upgrades you can get over the course of an entire raid tier. But although trinkets are one of the most important pieces of equipment, it is armour that is the most numerous. So in our example roster, we have 3 plate users, 2 mail users, 9 leather users and 6 cloth users. Now here, leather users are the big winner and mail users lose out. Of course, it may be different for your roster, though I'd be willing to bet that leather users will always do pretty well out of it. The amount of trading that can and will take place after the first couple of weeks will allow leather users to gear up much more quickly than either plate or mail. So much so that ultra min-maxing groups might even wonder if it's worth taking certain classes if their armour type is only going to be 1 or 2 people. The class buff system coming in Battle for Azeroth may alleviate this issue, but time will tell on that one. So then we look at weapons. Now, without going over every single weapon individually, a cursory look will show that an intellect staff will drop relatively frequently. There are 9 users who can have them drop. Agility daggers less so because there are only about 3 users who can make use of them. Strength two-handers will only drop for DPS paladin or warrior, and as for a bow, well, let's just hope you're not the only hunter in the group. Again, which weapons will be big winners and losers depends on your usual raid group, but intellect swords, daggers and staves have a really good chance to drop in most raids, I'd argue. Other weapons are likely to be in smaller supply. Of course, some people may be thinking at this point that where a weapon or indeed any other piece of equipment will be in greatest supply, it will also be in greatest demand because it's directly proportional to the number of characters that have it on their loot table. But like I said earlier, most of the upgrades you will get in a guild raid will over the course of a raid tier be from trading. All you need to do is think about the number of items that drop currently on your master loot that your character could use in theory, but are not actually upgrades so you don't bid on it, even towards the beginning of a tier. As far as you personally are concerned, they are waste items. But then consider that most of them did end up being used by someone and so didn't go to waste. This gives you some idea as to the amount of trading that can take place in the Battle for Azeroth with personal loot, at least with items that are on the loot table for half the raid. For a player who shares very few items on the loot table with their raid, they will get an awful lot of items from personal loot that will just go to waste over the weeks and months of a raid tier. If you are the only user of an agility dagger or mail armor or a strength trinket, or even just tanking trinkets, because regardless of your raid composition, very few people are going to have tank spec as their loot spec, then the probability begins to be stacked against you. This is just another argument against the removal of master loot, at least for mythic guild raids. However, I do feel that it should be at least something Blizzard explicitly addresses if this system is to be used in Battle for Azeroth, which of course it's going to be. As such, I'm also posting this on the EU and NA forums for community input, as well as providing Blizzard with the opportunity to respond. Links in the description below if you'd like to contribute your thoughts or even just like any posts that you support there. Some people have expressed in my past discussions that they've never experienced effective loot distribution with Master Loot, and so would actually prefer personal loot. But I feel most of these players are focusing on items that the game gives them. However, the difference between a raid group that gears up quickly and the one that does more slowly, for roughly the same amount of beginning progress, will be partly down to the loot which may be traded and how effectively that's done. The guild that doesn't distribute Master Loot effectively will do no better with personal loot, because it was the fault of the raid group and not the loot system. Hope you found this video interesting. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share with other people for further content. And until next time, I'll see you later.